He canceled my job interview for the family, so I canceled the marriage. Please stay with me as I tell my story. And please, do not forget to support our channel by subscribing to our channel, liking our videos, and sharing your loved one. Your support means the world to us. Now to our story. I, 29F, found out my fiancé, 32M, secretly canceled my job interview while pretending to support my career. That was the moment I knew I couldn't marry him. Here's what happened. I got laid off 3 months before our wedding. It was sudden and stressful, but I tried to stay positive. I threw myself into job hunting. After weeks of rejections, I finally got an interview with a company I'd dreamed about working for, Fortune 500, great pay, remote friendly. It felt like a light at the end of the tunnel. My fiancé, let's call him Eric, acted proud. He said things like, "You got this," and "they'd be lucky to have you." The night before the interview, he even made me tea and told me to get good sleep. He seemed genuinely supportive. Then came the morning of the interview. I got dressed, reviewed my notes, and logged into the video call link. A woman popped on screen and said, "Oh, we received notice that you were withdrawing from the process. The email said you were dealing with personal stress." My heart sank. I told her I hadn't sent anything like that I still wanted the interview. But she looked uncomfortable and said they'd moved on. I closed the laptop in confusion and panic. What just happened? I checked my email. Nothing. I thought maybe it was some glitch. That's when I noticed Eric's laptop open on the kitchen table. Out of pure instinct, I checked his sent folder. There it was, an email from him to the company's recruiter, posing as me. It said, "Thank you for the opportunity, but I've decided to withdraw. The wedding planning has taken a toll, and I need to focus on family right now." I couldn't breathe. I waited until he got home and asked him straight up if he'd canceled my interview. He didn't even deny it, just shrugged and said, "You're going to be a wife and a mom soon. This job thing was just a phase. You need to think about our future." Our future? I didn't even recognize the man standing in front of me. I said nothing, just nodded slowly. The next morning, I called the venue and canceled everything. Dress, catering, photographer, done. He canceled my interview for the family, so I canceled the wedding for myself. We met through a mutual friend at a dinner party. Eric was the kind of guy who made a strong first impression, warm, confident, charming in a way that felt effortless. He asked me questions about my job, actually listened when I answered, and seemed impressed that I worked in tech. "Smart and beautiful," he said with a grin. I rolled my eyes, but inside I was flattered. At the time, I was fully focused on building my career. I'd just finished a big project at work that earned me recognition, and I was eyeing a management position. Eric didn't just accept that. He said he loved it. He called me ambitious in the best way. He even helped me prep for interviews, gave feedback on my resume, and pushed me to go after roles I didn't think I was qualified for. He felt like a teammate, like someone who truly had my back. Looking back, there were signs. Small ones, easy to miss. He would sometimes interrupt me mid-sentence when I talked about work wins. Not rudely, just with little jokes to steer the conversation somewhere else. He'd say things like, "You're so cute when you go into boss mode," which I used to think was endearing. Friends hinted that he was old-fashioned. One of them even said, "Eric gives me man-of-the-house vibes." I laughed it off. I didn't see it. He cooked, cleaned, helped plan dates. He didn't seem controlling. Things got serious quickly. Within a year, we moved in together. I was promoted around that same time, and a week later, he proposed. At the time, I thought it was a celebration. He showed up at my office with flowers, took me out to a rooftop bar, and asked me to marry him under the string lights. It felt perfect, like all the pieces were falling into place. I didn't realize then that what felt like support might have been something else entirely, that he was attaching himself to my momentum, not cheering it on, that what I saw as partnership might have just been quiet control, dressed up as love. Now, when I think back to that night, I don't feel joy. I feel trapped, like the ring was a leash I didn't notice being tightened, because the moment I stopped climbing for both of us, he tried to cut the ladder. When Eric suggested we combine finances a few months after moving in, he framed it as planning for the future. He said, "We're getting married anyway. Might as well start acting like it." At the time, it felt responsible, mature even. I had always been the organized one with savings, and he made it sound like a step forward, like we were building something together. So I agreed. I gave him access to my savings account. We opened a joint account. I didn't question it. Love means trust, right? But things started to shift after that. Whenever I made a purchase, new work clothes, Uber rides when I worked late, he'd make little comments. "Didn't you just buy a blazer last month?" Or, "You could save so much if you just worked from home more." At first, I thought he was being helpful, logical, but it wasn't long before every financial decision turned into a conversation. Then came the bills. He had been between jobs when we moved in, which I knew and accepted. He said he had some freelance work coming in, but month after month, his contributions were light. I didn't mind covering more at first. I had the higher salary. But one night I did the math and realized I was covering nearly 70% of everything. Rent, groceries, wedding deposits. Meanwhile, he was ordering takeout and buying himself new golf clubs. I brought it up gently, thinking we'd talk through it. Instead, he got defensive. I'm trying, okay? Just because you have a job right now doesn't mean you get to throw it in my face. I dropped it, but it stuck with me. When I got offered a short business trip to San Francisco, I was excited. It was great exposure and came with a bonus. Eric didn't even try to hide his disapproval. Who's going to handle wedding planning while you're away? The guest list is still a mess. I told him I could multitask. It was one weekend. His response: you're always running off somewhere. Maybe you'll slow down once we have a baby. He said it with a smirk, like it was a joke. But I didn't laugh. I looked him in the eye and said, that wasn't the plan. He didn't reply. Just held my gaze in a way that made my stomach twist. That's when it hit me. He wasn't building a future with me. He was trying to reshape mine into something smaller, quieter, easier to control. And he was doing it one financial decision at a time. I had been prepping all week for that interview. It was the kind of job you dream about: competitive pay, remote options, a company with real growth potential. I practiced mock interviews, printed notes, researched their leadership team. I even laid out my outfit 2 nights before, trying to find that perfect balance of confident, but not over the top. Eric watched me from the couch while I worked late. You're going to kill it, he said, handing me tea. You always do. He kissed my forehead and told me to sleep early, so I'd be fresh in the morning. He seemed proud, supportive. I believed it. The next day, I got up early, put on my blazer, fixed my hair just right. I took a few deep breaths and joined the video call at exactly 10 a.m. A woman from HR joined the screen. She looked surprised. Hi, she said slowly. I wasn't expecting you. We received your withdrawal notice yesterday. I blinked. I didn't withdraw. She paused. We received an email saying you were stepping away due to personal stress. That wedding planning was overwhelming. My heart dropped. I didn't send that, I said. I was never planning to cancel. The HR rep looked awkward. I'm sorry, but we've already moved forward with other candidates. I sat there frozen, still staring at the screen long after she logged off. My brain couldn't catch up with what just happened. My hands went cold. I felt sick. I checked my email. Nothing. No sent message, no confirmation, no sign I'd ever withdrawn. Then I noticed Eric's laptop open on the dining table. I walked over, barely breathing. I opened his email. There it was. Sent yesterday, 3:13 p.m., to the recruiter. Thank you for the opportunity, but I'll have to step away from the process. With the wedding approaching and everything happening at once, I've decided to prioritize my personal life and mental health. He'd signed it in my name. I stared at it, reread it 3 times. He canceled my interview, pretended to be me, didn't tell me. My fingers shook as I took screenshots and emailed them to myself. I don't even know why I did that. Proof, maybe. For myself. In case he tried to say it didn't happen. I stood there in our kitchen, in my interview blazer and heels, staring at the man's laptop I thought I'd spend my life with. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. But something inside me quietly snapped. When Eric got home that evening, I was sitting at the kitchen table, laptop in front of me, still in my interview outfit. He walked in like nothing was wrong, dropped his keys in the bowl by the door and said, "Hey babe, how'd it go?" I didn't answer right away. I just opened his laptop, pulled up the sent folder, and turned the screen toward him. His eyes scanned the email. For a second, he looked confused. Then it turned to something else. Something flat and unreadable. "You went through my email," he said. "That's what you're focusing on right now." I asked. He paused. "I was protecting you. From what?" "A job interview." He rubbed his face, let out a breath. "You've been overwhelmed. The wedding. The pressure. You've been tired. You even said." I said I was stressed. "I didn't say I wanted you to impersonate me and cancel my interview." He stepped closer. "I didn't impersonate you. I just made a decision for us." I blinked. "For us? I know how important your career is, but this isn't just about jobs anymore. We're starting a family. That's not a solo mission, it's a partnership." "Partnership?" I asked quietly, looking down at the engagement ring on my hand. "Is that what this is?" "You're twisting things," he said, voice getting sharper now. "You should be thanking me. You've been running yourself into the ground. I saved you from yourself." There it was, the gaslighting, the subtle rewrites of my own reality. "You didn't save me," I said. "You took something from me. You're being dramatic." "No," I said, looking him dead in the eye. "I'm being clear." He scoffed. "You're unbelievable. I've done everything for you. I've put my life on hold so you can chase promotions and office awards, and now when I make one decision to support our future, I'm suddenly the villain." I didn't answer. God, you're so ungrateful, he muttered, backing away. I sat still. No yelling. No crying. Just quiet. I think that unsettled him more than anything. He kept talking, throwing out half excuses, twisting himself into knots to make it sound reasonable. But I wasn't listening anymore, because in that silence, something was settling inside me. Not fear. Not rage. Clarity. He had made a decision for the family. Now it was my turn to make one too. And I already knew exactly why what it was. The next morning, I woke up before the sun came through the blind. Eric was still asleep beside me, snoring lightly, like everything was fine. Like he hadn't flipped my entire life upside down with one email. I got out of bed quietly, grabbed my phone, and sat on the balcony with a blanket around my shoulders. My coffee went cold in my hands as I made the first call. The venue. I gave my name and reservation number, and said plainly, I need to cancel the wedding. The woman on the line asked if I was sure. I said yes. She asked if I wanted to reschedule. I said no. One by one, I went down the list. The photographer, the florist, the DJ. I typed out refund requests. I canceled the bachelorette Airbnb. I emailed the bakery and told them they could keep the deposit. I walked into the dress boutique later that afternoon and said I had a change of heart. The woman there looked surprised. Cold feet? She asked gently. No, I said. Just clear eyes. My mom called later, confused. What's going on? You canceled everything. I did. Why? What happened? He canceled my job interview without telling me, I said. That's all I want to say right now. There was silence on her end. She didn't ask more. Eric's mom, on the other hand, was livid. She called me 3 times, left a voicemail calling me unstable and ungrateful, and the kind of woman no man can please. I deleted it without listening to the rest. Eric didn't come home that night. He must have realized things were unraveling. I don't know where he went. Maybe to a friend's, maybe to his mom's. Either way, I didn't care. What I do know is that he texted me 17 times. The first few were panicked. Can we talk? I'm sorry. Please just come home. Then the tone changed. You're really overreacting. You're embarrassing both of us. I was trying to help you. Then silence. Then the call started. I didn't pick up. Not once. I sent him only one message. You made a decision for the family without asking me. So did I. Then I blocked his number. I didn't cry. I didn't replay things in my head. I just kept moving, one canceled contract at a time, cutting ties with every piece of a future I no longer want. And for the first time in weeks, maybe months, I felt something close to peace. I moved back into my old apartment 2 days after canceling the wedding. Thankfully, I had kept the lease, just in case, though at the time I thought that meant something like a job relocation, not walking away from a marriage before it even started. The place was small, the walls were too thin, and my boxes of stuff looked like clutter now. But it was mine. The first thing I did was close the joint account. I transferred my savings back into a private account and removed his name from anything with my money on it. I didn't tell him. I just did it. Quietly, completely. That night, he sent me a long email, since I'd blocked his number. He called me emotional, said we could still work through this, if I just calmed down. He framed it like a misunderstanding, like I'd somehow made this whole thing bigger than it was. I didn't reply. Some of our mutual friends took his side. They messaged me saying things like, "Are you sure this isn't something you can talk about?" Or, "He just panicked. Wedding stress gets to everyone." But a few others, they told me the truth. One friend admitted she'd always gotten a weird vibe from Eric. Another said, "He was always too into your career for someone who didn't have his own." One even said, "Honestly, I was waiting for something like this to happen." That hurt. Not because they were wrong, but because I'd ignored it. I started therapy a week later. It helped to say everything out loud to someone who didn't try to twist it or minimize it. I talked about control, fear, how easy it is to lose yourself when someone seems so nice on the outside. My therapist didn't ask why I left. She asked how I stayed that long. I also started applying for jobs again. It felt strange, like I was rebuilding not just my resume, but myself. Every cover letter felt like a quiet protest. Every sent application felt like a little act of defiance. Then one morning I got an email. An invitation to interview for a position I'd applied to on a whim. Same industry, better company, better pay. Even better than the one Eric had canceled. I stared at the email for a long time. Then I smiled. And this time, no one was going to cancel it. A few weeks after I moved out, I started hearing things through mutual friends. Nothing direct, just little bits here and there. Apparently, Eric was telling people I lost it. That I spiraled from wedding stress and bailed last minute. One person said he claimed I had a breakdown over my job and projected it onto him. Another said he was telling people I was unstable and cold. I didn't respond. Not once. Let him spin whatever version of the story he needed to feel like the victim. Truth doesn't need a loudspeaker. I also heard he lost his part-time job. Something about attendance issues and attitude. I didn't dig for details. I wasn't surprised. He moved back in with his mom after I shut down the shared accounts. The man who once mocked me for budgeting now couldn't afford rent on his own. Ironic. Then came the rumor that he was dating someone new, a girl in her early 20s, still in college, waitressing part-time, studying communications. A friend sent me a picture of them out at brunch, smiling like life hadn't hit them. I didn't feel bitter. I actually laughed. She looked sweet, bright-eyed. No clue what she was getting into. Sounds perfect for him, I texted back. Eric tried one last time to get in touch. He sent me a long email from a new address, since I'd blocked his main one. It was a wall of text, the kind of thing that starts with, "I just want to say this once," but goes on for 5 paragraphs. He blamed the pressure to be a provider. Said he panicked when I got laid off, that he felt like he was losing control and made a stupid decision out of fear. He didn't really apologize for what he did, more for how it made me feel. He ended it with, "I still believe we could have had something great." I didn't even finish reading it. I hovered over the email for a second, then clicked delete. No anger, no sadness, just peace. I closed my laptop, made myself coffee, and got ready for my interview. The one I scheduled, I confirmed, and I would show up for, without anyone pretending to speak for me. Eric's life after me? Not my problem. Whatever version of me he's selling to his next girlfriend, or his mother, or whoever else he's blaming, it doesn't touch me anymore. I smiled, because I wasn't his problem anymore either. The second interview felt different. I wasn't nervous this time. I was focused, steady, like I had something to prove, not to them, but to myself. I wore the exact same suit I'd planned to wear for the interview Eric canceled. Same heels, same gold watch. I didn't change a thing. I walked into that video call like a woman who'd already walked through fire and wasn't afraid of smoke anymore. And I nailed it. 2 days later, I got the offer. Higher salary than the last job, full benefits, flexible hours, and a relocation bonus. The kind of package that made me sit back and just exhale. I hadn't even realized I was still holding my breath. I packed up what little I needed from my old apartment and moved to a new city. New job. New apartment with big windows, light floors, and a tiny coffee shop downstairs that remembered my name by week 2. I bought a small couch and built my own bookshelf. No shared accounts. No shared closet. Just mine. On my first day, I stood in front of the mirror, adjusted the blazer that almost never got worn, and smiled at my reflection. It looked like closure. Like everything that had nearly been taken from me was now something I owned fully. I walked into the office with quiet pride. No dramatic music, no epic moment. Just me on time, prepared, and unafraid. People at work don't know much about what happened. I keep it simple. I change directions. I don't talk about the wedding. I don't mention his name. That part of my life doesn't need to follow me anymore. Sometimes in one-on-ones or casual chats, someone will say, "You're so brave, starting fresh like this." I smile politely, but I always think the same thing. I'm not brave. I just finally picked myself. And once I did, everything else got easier. One night, a few months after starting my new job, I sat by the window of my apartment with a cup of tea and opened my journal. I hadn't written in it since before the breakup. Back then, it was filled with to-do lists for wedding planning and half-finished thoughts about feeling tired all the time. This time, I just wrote what came to me. I thought about how close I came to marrying someone who wanted me to shrink. Someone who didn't love the whole me, just the version that made his life easier. I had been ready to give up pieces of myself for the sake of compromise, for the sake of keeping the peace, for the image of a perfect couple. And then he canceled my job interview. That one action tore the blindfold off. It wasn't just a bad choice. It was a confession. He didn't see me as a partner. He saw me as a problem to manage, a schedule to rearrange, a life to slow down. And I realized, right there on the page, that his betrayal was the best thing that ever happened to me. Because if he hadn't done it, if he hadn't gone behind my back and pulled that string, I might still be there, planning a wedding, making excuses, apologizing for working late, swallowing dreams in the name of love. I wrote it down in one sentence. He canceled the interview for the family, but I canceled the marriage for me. It felt good to see that in my own handwriting. Solid, permanent, true. Now, I go to work every day knowing I got here because I chose myself. Not in a loud, dramatic way, just in the quiet, firm decision to walk away from someone who didn't respect me. And I've never had to schedule an interview behind someone's back ever again.